We continue now at the top of Daf Chav Zayin Amud Aleph and Meseches Nedarim. This is Nedarim Daf 27a. The Gemara is continuing to ask on Rava's opinion. Rava's opinion is, let's say you have a situation where a person makes a neder, he prohibits a bunch of people or a bunch of items, and then let's say he realizes his father was among the group of people, or he realizes that one of the items should not really have been part of the neder. So if he says that had he known about his father being part of the group, or that particular item being part of the group, had he known those facts, he would have reformulated the neder completely. So Rava says then everybody agrees that the entire neder is now batal and everything is mutter, because what he's essentially saying is, had he known that this particular item or person was an exception, he would have reformulated entirely, and the whole neder is therefore not going to be a good neder. However, says Rava, let's say you have a situation where the person says, I wouldn't have reformulated the whole neder, I would have made the exact same neder, I would have just added a clause with the exception of my father, with the exception of whatever item. So in that case, it's a machlokas between Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai. Beis Hillel say the entire neder is undone, and Rabbi Akiva is together with the position of Beis Hillel, and Beis Shammai say in that case we are strict, because again the neder would have essentially been the same, just with an exception, and therefore the neder is still going to apply to the remaining items or the remaining people. Again, that's the opinion of Beis Shammai. That is also the opinion of the Rabbanan. And so the Gemara is asking on this position of Rava from the Tosefta. Tosefta says, let's say a person says everything in this basket is usher, v'hayu ba benos shuach, then it turns out that in the basket there was benos shuach, which is a kind of produce. V'yamar, and the person says, ilu hayisi yodeya shebenos shuach besocha, had I known that there was benos shuach within that basket, lo hayisi noder, so then I would never have made the neder. Similar case to all the cases we've had previously. So the halacha is hakalkola asura benos shuach mutaros. So the Tosefta initially says the basket remains asur, but the benos shuach are mutter. However, like we said before, at Shabar Rabbi Akiva v'limed, until Rabbi Akiva came along and taught neder shehuter miksaso huter kula. Once a neder is partially permitted, the entire thing is permitted. So again, the question over here is, in this particular case in the Tosefta, what is the case? Is the person saying that had he known there was benos shuach, he would have totally reformulated the neder? Or is he saying, no, the neder essentially would have been the same, just with an exception? And so the Gemara says, my lav isn't not talking to Amr, where the person says, ilu hayisi yodea shebenos shuach besoch. Had I known there was benos shuach inside this basket, hayisi omer, so I would have said as follows, I would have totally reformulated the neder. I would have said, te'enim shechoros ulevanos asuros, the figs, the dark ones, the white ones are asur, benos shuach mutaros, and the benos shuach are mutaros. And in a situation where it was completely reformulated, v'Rabbi Akiva, and this Tosefta is only Rabbi Akiva who says everything is mutter, upligi Rabbanan, and the Rabbanan argue. Now that goes against what Rava said, because Rava again said if it's a situation where the person would have totally reformulated the neder, everybody would agree that it is going to be mutter. And the Gemara says, no, that is not the case. Rather, the case of the Tosefta is, Ba'omer, where the person says, ilu hayisi yodeh shebenos shuach besocha, had I known that there was benos shuach in the basket, hayisi omer, I would have said, kol hakol kol asur, I would have formulated it the same way. I would have said this entire basket is asur, and I would have just added the exception of benos shuach mutaros, and benos shuach are mutaros, and therefore, again, according to Rava, that would work out fine, because that is only Rabbi Akiva's opinion in the according to Rava. In the situation where a person would have essentially kept the neder the same, so that's the case where the Rabbanon, where Beis Shammai are strict, Rabbi Akiva is lenient, and that's why Rabbi Akiva is lenient in this particular case. And the Gemara continues, Man tana laha de tanu Rabbanan, who's the author of the following brisa? The brisa says, Nader mechamisha b'nei adam ke'echad, if a person makes a neder from 5 people at once, so hutter le'echad mehem hutru kulan, so if one of them becomes mutter, so the entire neder is undone, and they all become mutter. That's talking about in a situation where the person essentially says he would have reformulated the entire neder. Now, chutz me'echad mehen, let's say it's with the exception of one of them, meaning it's not going to be a reformulation of the entire neder, so then hu mutter v'hein asur, and then he is mutter, but the rest of them remain asur. And the Gemara explains, Ila Rabba, so if you're following Rabba, so Reisha Rabbi Akiva, so then you're going to have to say the Reisha is Rabbi Akiva, because according to Rabba, only Rabbi Akiva is lenient in a situation where we say that the entire neder would have been reformulated. The Seifa Divrei HaKol, and the Seifa, which is strict, that's going to be according to everybody, because in a situation where the entire neder was not going to be reformulated, so then everybody agrees, according to Rabba, that we are strict. And Ila Rava, and if you're going to follow Rava, so then Seifa Rabbanan, then the Seifa will follow the Rabbanan, because again, according to Rava, in a situation where the neder was not reformulated, only the Rabbanan are strict. V'reisha divrei hakol, and the Reisha will follow everybody, because again, in a situation where the entire neder would have been reformulated, so according to Rava, everybody is lenient in that situation. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah, Nidrei Onsen. What are examples of Nedarim of Onsen, meaning Nedarim, where the fulfillment of the neder is beyond the person's control? Heidiru chaveru sheyochel etzel, let's say a person's friend makes a neder to tell him to come eat by him, v'chalahu, and he becomes sick, o shechala beno, or his son becomes sick, o sheikvo nar, or a river holds him back from coming. All of these cases, there's an onus that prevents the fulfillment of the neder. Harei elu nidrei onsen. These are all examples of nidrei onsen, and nidrei onsen are going to be mutter, they are not binding. And the Gemara says, Ahu gavra da'at v'zachvasa b'veidina, there was an individual who deposited his documents in a court. These documents showed that he should win the particular case. V'yamar, and he said, Ilo asina atzlas and yomen, if I don't come back within 30 days, live to lunhani zachvasi. So these particular documents should be batel, they should be nullified. So isnis v'loasa, then an accident happened and he didn't come to the court. So Amar Rav Huna, so Rav Huna said, batel zachvasi, so these documents are batel, he no longer is able to win the case with these documents. Amar le Rava, so Rava said to him, Onus, so what do you mean? This is a case of onus. The onus rachmana patri, there's a general rule that the Torah says you're pater when it comes to an onus. Tichsiv, like the pasuk says, v'lanara lo sasa davar, you can't do anything to the young girl. It's talking about a situation of rape, something that's beyond her control, and she is pater. V'chiteimu ketol hashani, now maybe you'll say cases involving death, that should be different. So maybe we can't compare it to this case of the documents, but that's not true. V'atanan, but we learned in our Mishnah, nidrei onsen heidiru chaveru sheyochel etzlo v'chalahu, let's say, what's a case of nidrei onsen? His friend made a neder with him that he should eat by him, and he became sick, or his son became sick, or a river held him back. Harei elu nidrei onsen. These are considered nidrei onsen. You see that onus applies even by these cases of nedarim, even by situations that don't involve the possibility of a death penalty. And the Gemara continues, but according to Rava, if Rava here is saying that onus means rachmana patri in these cases, what's the difference of the following Mishnah? The Mishnah says, person says, this is your get from now, retroactive, if I don't come back within 12 months. And then he dies within 12 months, certainly seems like an accident, and therefore he did not arrive within the 12 months. Get, so it is a get. And so the Gemara asks the same question, if this is an onus, amai, why should that be a get? V'amenas isnis, but isn't this a case of onus? He didn't return because there's essentially something out of his control, he died. And the Gemara answers, Amri, they answered, Dil Mashani Hasa, maybe it's different over there, and we'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Zayin Amud Beis.